Okay, hey there. Thank you for checking in. Welcome back to the Two-Stroke Turbo channel. As you guys may recall, I've been struggling with getting the shock bushing or metal sleeve out of this control knuckle. So I've got the shock off finally, and I had to take it outside because it's stinky. I had used the torch on it. You'd use the acetylene and oxygen torch, and I finally got, I can touch this without getting burnt. This is the sleeve that was on, and look, oh, finally, after a few minutes of persuasion of heat, I got this, ooh, that's hot, that's hot, that's hot, loosened up. Tried with my map torch. That wouldn't do it, so I had to bring out the big guy. That did it, and then oiled it down a bunch with PP Blaster, got this sleeve finally to release. It was just solidly rusted on there. So now I can rebuild new shocks, new brakes, put the hub back on. We've got a long ways to go, but hang in there. We'll get her done. Where's my dog? Oh my goodness. Oh, and you're all wet. You been swimming already this morning, Stella? Oh, it's a little early for swimming. Silly dog. Get your nose right in there. Stella's being such a good dog, helping me in the shop today. Just hanging out. So what are we doing? We're gonna fix this Isetta. The nuts on the end are completely fused together. I'm gonna saw those off. Hopefully there's not a lot of pressure on the spring. And then I can put the new shocks in, which are right down there. And then we got our control arm back in here with the sleeve that was so difficult to remove. It had been rusted on. Finally got that off, which is the sleeve which goes in the base of the shock. So we're going to cut off both shock nuts to free our shocks, our old ones that are really rusted. And oh, I guess we're going to take a nap now. Okay, so we got our Isetta shocks all broken down finally. We actually had to cut the top nuts off the shock towers, and as you can imagine, these are original shocks. There is no rebound. No rebound, no compression. And these are the nice new ones here. They have, wow, they're really stiff. They have a little bit of compression and a lot of, what the heck? I think it's because it's just laying inside. There we go. They're much different. Much different than these. These things are just like, woo, 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 woo. So now we just got to put it all back together. Oh. So we're back to work on the little Isetta, trying to get the shocks and springs and front suspension and the brakes all figured out. I'm using my big spring compressor here. This is my Brannick 7600. Don't use it that much, but when I do, I really need it to compress my Isetta shocks and springs just enough so that I can get my hardware on the top. And I think that's going to work just great. You don't want springs springing across the shop. So I'm going to tighten that up, and then we'll have to use the on-car spring compressor to get it into position there. Lots of spring compressors here. I love this tool. It's so easy. You just turn this big handle here and it compresses the spring. I've got the shock on a piece of 2x6, and watch this as I turn the handle here. It just nicely compresses. Oh, so safe. I have to thank my mother for giving me this tool. So nice. Okay, so we graduated from the great big huge spring compressor to the on-car spring compressor. We now have the shock tower back on and the bolts are through. So now we have to tighten everything up, clean up these brake pads, put on the new wheel cylinders, connect the tie rod or the drag link, and get this thing back. So spring compressor now needs to come over to this side, where I've got to get these bolts to line up by compressing this whole thing. It's been a lot of work. Okay, so we're getting a little farther along on our Isetta front shocks. I know this is taking a long time, but good things happen to those who wait. We have our complete shock towers back on. We have our shoes off now that were soaked in brake fluid. They are now being cleaned in a solution of brake clean. I'm going to replace both wheel cylinders and bleed the brakes, and hopefully we'll have something going today. I hope. Okay, so we're back on our Isetta. We got the brakes bled and adjusted. That took a while. We got our tires aired up. We got the wheels put back on. We've got the engine cooling surround ready to go back on. Carburetor's back on. The fuel filter is full of fuel and it's not leaking. That's always nice. We got the bolts back in the air cover. I think we're ready to start it up. We've checked the oil. I think we still have the cover's off in the back there. We got the gas on. I think we're going to try and see what happens. Let's put a little choke on. There we go. We've got a little bit of a gas leak here. She's running. Actually sounds pretty good. That gas leak might be normal. That's the normal overflow. Yeah. Okay, so we got a little more work to do before we can take this thing for a drive. We know we got something. Sounds good. Nice tight brakes. Awesome. Speaking of the brakes, we also hooked up the third brake light. In other words, normally there's a blanked off black cover here for the license plate light. So we wired that in so that that comes on when we step on the brake pedal. Okay, let's see if those brake lights work like they should. Hopefully they work. Okay, as you can plainly see, our little Isetta Cabriolet is out of the shop, finally, after months. The big repairs on this were the front shocks, getting the horn working and all the new bushings for the column, and putting the carburetor back together, getting the engine running and dialed, and then all new brakes. So quite a bit of stuff on this thing. We need to drive it now and make sure that there's no issues. The customer said there was a rubbing noise with this brake drum, and I've identified where it's rubbing, but I don't know if I can fix it. I don't know what's off there, but we're going to drive it. So let's not put off any more further ado, or how you say that, and let's check our work, shall we? We're going to sit down inside this beautiful little Cabriolet. I did wash the car. It's a warm day, so I'm going to open the windows. It does not have the tropical air door. Some Isettas have the optional slide vent here that lets air blow onto your knees. This one does not. This car is very similar to mine, except it's tighter and the seat feels much better, and the gear shift is not as wobbly. It's probably just a better car. Okay, so the gas is on. A little flooded because it's hot and this has been sitting out in the sun with the gas on and the engine off, so that's sort of typical. We're gonna drop her down into first gear here. I think that's first. See what happens with the clutch out. Okay, here we go. Look behind us through our porthole window. This is a Cabriolet model. Oh wow, totally different than my car. You can tell the gearing is way different. I have the high-speed rear end. Steering is tighter. Oh, let's see if the horn works. It does. That's so sweet. Speedometer is wagging. Let's get up to speed here a little bit and see how she feels. See how the brakes do. Yeah, the gearing is much different. I'm so used to mine. The engine seems tight. Let's check brakes. Oh, it pulls hard to the right, pulls hard to the left. That's not good. I'm gonna have to figure that out. The shoes were completely soaked with oil, and I cleaned them, but I think there's still oil on them. So first gear, 10 miles an hour. Second gear, and we got to turn around up here, so oh. Loves low gears, that's for sure. Oh yeah, snappy second, good clutch, that's always nice. Okay, let's see if we can get her to third. There's third gear. Oh, we do have a rubbing noise up front. I can hear it. And try fourth. Whoa, and she pulls like crazy. Whoa. Oh boy. We got to get the brakes kind of lined up a little bit better there. Let's see, I'm going to drop it back down into first. Oh, first. There it is right there. It should be first. Can I find first? Kind of locked here. Okay, first gear should be right. Is that reverse? Yeah, that's first there. First is a little different than trying to shove it into third. Okay, so the brakes are a little sketch. We got to clean those up a little bit. I'm going to do one more brake test here. See which way she pulls. Oh wow, pulls hard right. Pulls hard right. Okay. Well, we got something to work on. Runs great though. Okay. That's a neat little car. Beautiful. And it's a great day for it too. Listen to that thing purr. Nice. So we got a little adjustment to do on the brakes, and then she's good to go. I hope.